Mornings are better with a warm beverage, even for Latter-day Saints. Meet Postum, the ideal coffee alternative and proud sponsor of This Week in Mormons podcast. Spotted on the coffee aisle at Smith's Grocery or at your local nearby store. Can't locate it? No worries. Order it at postum.com. Explore delicious recipes to tailor your Postum experience. Start your day off right with Postum.
Hello, welcome to This Week in Mormons, the Twin Sisters edition, with your sisters here, Ariane Smith
and Tiffany Hales.
We're back for April.
We are back for April, and we need to start off tonight by doing a little cheers. We have our mugs tonight.
I am drinking Postum. I did not think I would. Tiffany said they sent her chocolate.
I promised last time we recorded that I would bring the chocolate Postum over and allow you to try the chocolate Postum. So on my way over here tonight, I said, okay, Ariane, get the hot water ready. I'm bringing the chocolate Postum. So she got the hot water ready. It said to dump 2 teaspoons in. And so we dumped 2 teaspoons in and we tried it and it wasn't very sweet. It's the cocoa flavor.
Yeah.
It wasn't very sweet. And so we thought, well, we need to add something a little sweeter. So tell them what you did.
I added my coconut creamer, which I add to my sodas when I make my dirty Dr. Peppers. And it is delicious. I'm not even kidding. I literally groaned when I heard she was bringing this over because I was like, oh my gosh, she's going to make me taste this. And they're a sponsor. And if I don't like it, I'm going to have to lie because they're a sponsor. But I tried it and I was actually like, oh my gosh, it's actually good because it's not sweet like hot chocolate. Hot chocolate is too sweet for me.
That is my beef with hot chocolate.
It is like hot chocolate without the massive amounts of sugar. It's chocolatey.
Yeah.
But not very sweet.
Exactly. And I'm really curious calorie wise what this has. So it 10 calories per serving. So really minimal calories.
And then a little more if you add
the coconut creamer. And then I did make you get marshmallows out and I put some marshmallows on top because everything is better with a couple marshmallows.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, shout out to Postum. We like their cocoa. So
who knew? Okay. So there you go. Anyways, so yeah, we're here for April. It feels like May already because life is chaotic. April is the new May for mothers. I think actually my May will be easier than my April this year.
Are you kidding?
It's just been a lot. We've just had a week. This has been a week where the age spread of my children is really showing because I have a kindergartner. We went on a field trip. I got a kid in dance, another with a birthday, and then tomorrow we have prom. So I'm like,
you're covering the gamut.
In the matter of this week, we have done activities for all age groups. But it's all been really good things. So, and then the other thing I had this week that I was telling you about, and she was like, you have to tell the listeners about this.
Exactly.
They might be interested.
Well, and I want to hear how the activity turned out.
Yes. So I'm an assistant girls camp director this year for our ward girls camp. And so we decided, we had seen this online. Probably lots of you have seen it floating around online. This idea of these like paint by numbers.
Yeah.
You take a giant picture of usually the Savior, but you could do a temple or whatever. And you create a paint by number out of it, chop it up into squares and give everybody a square. And so everybody paints part of it and then you put it back together. So we had done this. I created it because I couldn't find one online that didn't have like over 100. There was a woman online who generously put it out there, but it was for like a state girls camp. It had like 150 squares. I was like, oh, we can't do that. We got like 25 people.
Well, and I love the picture that you chose. You chose that Minerva tiger of the Savior where he's wearing the red robes.
Yes, I chose we did the Minerva tiger of the Savior in the red robes because it's very abstract.
Yes.
And we thought we can't mess that up. Well, we might be able to mess it up, but we're hoping we can't mess it up. So I had to do some Photoshop trickery, but I found this really cool program out there. If you just Google it, you can find it. It can turn any picture into a paint by number. I was like, this would be really cool to do with even like your family picture. It's just free online. You Google it, you upload your picture, you click on some dots and it creates a paint by number. And then it gives you a color chart of like, these are the colors, these are the numbers that go with the colors.
And so you took that to Young Women's this week and the girls did it at
Young
Women's.
So we did it at Young Women's. We have not told them what they're painting. Well, the YCLs know because the YCLs have been in on the planning this with us. Ours has 48 squares, so everybody's going to have to do a couple.
Okay.
So we took it to Young Women's. We said, we're making this giant paint by number. We're not going to tell you what it is, but we're going to put it together up at camp. It's going to be awesome.
Okay.
So it was really fun. They all did really great. They were good sports. They all did. We still have several squares
still to do
that we didn't get very many takers for. Does anybody want to take one home and do an extra? But that's okay.
Well, but they're so busy this time of year too.
I know
that they're probably, the girls are just like, I can't add another thing.
It is a really busy time of year, but it's okay. We'll get them done. So anyways, it's going to be 6 feet tall.
Oh, wow.
By 4 feet wide.
So anxious to see your picture
if
of this.
It turns out, we'd like to put a little frame around it and keep it in the Young Women's room. But
that would be cool.
That might depend on if it turns out. But I'm totally willing to share files if there's any other camp directors out there that would be interested in having my files, because I spent the time on them. I would love to share them with the world. Just reach out if you want them.
Oh, that's so nice. Well, my April has been crazy busy too. We did 2 weekend back-to-back trips to Utah. Mm-hmm. Our first one was the second weekend in April because our son Scott got married and my husband married them.
So exciting.
I know, he had to get ordained to be a minister.
Which I hear is not hard.
No. It's just a matter of a few clicks on the internet. And so we went down to Utah and they chose a beautiful spot up in American Fork Canyon. Uh-huh. And it was a very small, intimate wedding. It was literally just immediate family, like parents, siblings, and a grandma thrown in. I mean, it was very, very small.
Okay, so how does he feel having his first wedding under his belt?
Oh my gosh.
Is he going to do this again? Is he like, who wants me to marry them? I'm good now.
Yeah, actually he is. But the funny thing was he was a nervous wreck when we were doing this. So he started, he admits now, I probably should have started preparing earlier than he did. So we left on a Thursday morning. And so Wednesday night, I'm running around trying to get stuff ready. And he's sitting down, kind of making notes and preparing. And we get in the car to go down on Thursday morning. And usually he drives. And he was like, no, I gotta write in my notes. I gotta transfer my notes into
he's cramming
into the book that he's gonna use. It was seriously the longest drive to Utah I have ever had, because he's a little stressed out. He's totally backseat driving me. We're like the Bickersons driving down there. And I'm just like, you are supposed to be speaking to them on love. I do love you. I'm not sure at the moment if I like you.
Oh my goodness.
But he was, I get why he was stressed out. Yes. It was a very big deal. I have to say the trip home was the fastest trip home from Utah.
It was all love and sunshine.
It was all love and sunshine.
That's awesome.
But that was really fun. And then we had to turn around the next weekend because he had a niece that was getting married and go down there to see the niece get married. The nice thing about that is
not by him.
But not by him. No. So that was the nice thing about that is we had no responsibilities other than just to show up.
Nice.
And a bunch of his cousins came to the reception. And so they got to have a little family reunion. And it was just fun to see my husband like hanging out with his cousins, because I've never seen him with his cousins before.
That's really fun.
It was cool. It was really cool. So yes, I don't think I'm on par busy with you, but very busy. Yeah. And I still have one more trip to Utah next weekend because my daughter graduates from Utah State. So next weekend I'm turning around and going back for Utah State graduation.
Or just a frequent flyer.
I'm a frequent flyer these
driver
days.
To the state of Utah.
Exactly.
That's exciting.
All right. Well, should we do some stories tonight?
We'll get into some news. Okay.
We're going to lead off with kind of one of the big ones this week.
Yes.
The Manti Temple got rededicated on Sunday.
Yes. Big one this week was the Manti Temple getting rededicated. But the big surprise of this was that President Nelson showed up to do the dedication, which I don't think anybody knew was happening.
No.
This was a bit of a surprise. Everybody's like, what? Because he's been so on the down low lately with his health.
And I can't remember if you and I talked about this story or if I talked about it in a Taffy edition. There is a whole list of all of the temples that are going to be dedicated this year, and they've already assigned who the general authorities are.
We talked about that.
Yes, and in Manti, they just had...
they had TBD
to be determined.
Well, now we know. We should have known.
And I'm trying to remember if we pontificated that might be President Nelson.
I think we did speculate that it could be. Yeah. But this was interesting in reading the article because I didn't realize, and you told me you didn't realize either, he actually has ties to the area.
Exactly.
So that obviously, of course, he wanted to do this one. His father was from Manti and his mother was from nearby in Ephraim. Ephraim.
So
he presided over the groundbreaking of the Ephraim, Utah temple in August 2022. Again, I'm like, oh wait, we're getting one there too.
Yeah,
I cannot keep track.
Don't you remember the reason that we got the Ephraim temple is they wanted to do kind of a big expansion on the Manti temple, but then when there was the pushback on that's going to take out the murals, and they decided to save the murals, they were like, okay, well, we better put another temple there because
we need more space.
We need more temple capacity.
I had forgotten that. I cannot keep track of these Utah temples.
I know.
Anyway, so he was happy to be there. Everybody was, I think, thrilled to see him up and about dedicating that temple.
Exactly.
So I believe next one up for Utah will be Taylorsville in June, and Elder Gong is doing that one. So.
And both of us, you were down in Utah last weekend too. We both drove past the Taylorsville
We were
temple.
both in Utah separately.
Yes,
I was together. I was there for a dance competition for my daughter, and I drove by it, and I was like, whoa. It is one that just like takes you. It's right next to the freeway.
It is. It's right next to the 215.
Spit on it from the freeway.
Exactly. You really could.
And it's massive and beautiful, and it looks very pioneery.
Yes.
So,
well, and a fun fact that I learned about the Taylorsville temple when I was down there, because the wedding that I was going to, the groom's family was from Taylorsville, and we actually had the reception at a church in Taylorsville.
Oh, okay.
And the uncle of the groom told me that the site that the Taylorsville temple on used to be their stake center, and that they tore down the stake center to build the temple and the reason that this came up is we were in a regular ward building, and they had a baptismal font in their regular ward building right off the gym. And so I was like, dude, what is up with the baptismal font right off the gym in a regular ward building? Why y'all have that? That's really weird. And he said, well, it's actually quite handy right now because we don't have a stake building.
Oh, so they haven't replaced that yet.
And apparently, according to him, they don't have any intention of replacing it.
Oh.
So they have
must not need to
farmed people out elsewhere, and they have
a font.
They have a font. So what more do you need? Anyway, kind of a fun fact.
That is interesting.
Okay, staying on course with the Manti Temple, as I just alluded to a few minutes ago, there are several murals in the Manti Temple that originally were slated to be either destroyed or removed, depending on their condition, and placed somewhere else. And there was a lot of backlash about that. And the church really did listen to that backlash.
I know that was a big deal.
It was a big deal.
People were really upset, and the church really listened.
And the church really listened. And so they decided to save the murals. And so there is a whole article about how they saved these murals. And there was a couple of interesting things that I found in this article. First of all, when there was a lot of backlash, it was all about the Minerva Teichert, because everybody knows Minerva Teichert.
Right.
And so
she is beloved.
She is beloved. I just assumed, having never been to the Manti Temple, this shows my ignorance, that all the murals in the Manti Temple were Minerva's.
So did I, because that's all that I read about. But there's a bunch of other people.
Exactly. And actually,
that are even older than her.
Exactly. In fact, actually, the Minerva murals were in the best condition. All they really had to do to the Minerva murals was essentially clean them up. But the church hired this company called Preservation and Recovery of Masterpieces of Art, or PARMA for short. They are out of Chicago, Illinois. And so they hired them to come in and preserve these murals. So the biggest, or the most extensive one that they had to do, is also the oldest mural. There is a mural that I believe was there from, let's see if we can get the date on it.
Oh, we got to get the date. It was so old. I was shocked.
It dates back to the 19th century when the temple first opened.
I think it was like late
1800s. So
I can't find it now, but it was.
I know I can't find it. I can't find it, now
late
either.
1800s, and it was a guy Christensen.
Yeah, C.C.A. Christensen is the one who did this mural, and so
there's his name.
Yeah, there's his name. So what had happened is, over the years, in trying to preserve these murals before they really understood what they were doing, they were applying clear coats on top of this paint. And then, of course, the clear coat was cracking. And so this company had to do a lot of testing to figure out what kind of solvents would remove that varnish layer, which without removing the paint and without discoloring the paint.
Sounds insane.
Sounds completely insane.
Like, I do not want that job.
Exactly. So they tested it and they figured it out. And the conservators estimated that the window to reverse the damage was nearly closed.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it would have been
too far gone.
Too far gone. So CCA Christensen, he had done the murals in the creation room. Mm-hmm. And so that was one of the ones that was, like I said, probably the most damaged and the hardest to repair. And what was interesting is they talked about when he did these murals, because of course he's doing dinosaurs and things like this, and he's doing this in the late 19th century. It's not like he can go to the library and look at a book of dinosaurs and figure out, what does a dinosaur look like?
There's no internet.
There's no internet. And so he had to visualize and conceptualize something that he only read about. And so whatever, however it was described in the words, that he was then able to visualize and conceptualize that. And so I thought that was completely fascinating. It did say they spent the most of their time in that room. It was 130 years of gunk. So that mural was 130 years old. And so they were able to restore that. Now I was supposed to go down for the Manti open house, and we ended up not going just because we had all these other Utah trips, and we just had so much going on that I was like, oh, I can't do that. So we didn't go for the open house. Now I'm like, okay, I'm definitely going to have to go do a temple session there.
Reading this made me really want to go there.
Exactly.
See it.
Well, and what was really interesting is one of the renovations that they did in this temple, aside from the murals, was they added audiovisual equipment. Because if you recall, Manti was a live session.
Right.
And so I am presuming with the addition of the audiovisual equipment, there is no more live session at Manti, which makes me wonder when Salt Lake comes back online, is Salt Lake going to be all audiovisual and no more live sessions?
Oh, I'm sure. I think
the
so live sessions
that's a thing of the past.
Way, way gone.
Anyway, the next room that this article talks about is the garden room. And the garden room was actually done by 3 different artists. The first artist was a gentleman by the name of Dancourt Anthon Wiegland. And he did the original mural in the garden room, but it got so damaged over the years that in 1930, his mural was removed and the walls were blank for a period of time. And then they commissioned a gentleman by the name of Joseph Everett to begin new murals. But in the middle, he died. So in the middle of doing these murals, Brother Everett dies. And so they have Robert L. Shepard, who is doing murals in the baptistry. That's where he was doing murals. So they got Shepard to come finish Everett's murals, and he kind of had to figure out how to mimic Everett's painting style because each artist kind of has their own painting style.
Right.
And so he had to mimic that.
I thought that was interesting too. Like, I don't think I realized how many of these murals. I mean, probably the only temple I've been in that has a lot of murals is the LA temple.
Yeah.
And they have one in every room you go in, but to have murals in the baptistry?
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, oh, this temple has murals all over every wall.
Exactly. Exactly. So they fixed that one. And then, of course, they got to the world room. And the murals in the world room are the ones that Minerva Teichert did. And those are the ones that, like I said, they said, the Minerva Teichert murals were actually in really good shape. Mm-hmm. They just had to do a little cleaning, little restoration. But, of course, what's really interesting is she did those in 1946. She painted them in 23 working days between April and May 1947, while the temple was still in operation, pausing only when sessions came through.
That seems wild.
It seems so wild.
I mean, it's massive. It seems wild that you could even do it in 23 days without working around sessions. Yeah. Were they doing like one session a day?
I have no idea, but it certainly speaks to the ability of Sister Teichert.
Yeah.
So
it's impressive.
It is impressive. And I just want to say, kudos to the church for really pausing and rethinking and going, you know what? Let's save those murals.
I think so.
They have some real historical value.
As I read, I think I finally got it as I read this. I mean, we've read the articles over the years where people were upset, and I thought, oh yeah, they should save the murals. But I don't think I really understood without having been there.
Yeah.
I don't think I really understood the value of it and the history of it and like how really amazing and old they are. Like what a part of our history.
Exactly. Well, and what's really interesting is the article finishes with a gentleman who is part of this Parma Conservancy agency or conservancy group that did these murals. I presume these people are probably not members of the church. And he says, these murals serve a purpose for Latter-day Saints. We hope that they stay preserved for many more generations. We feel privileged to have seen them and cared for them. And so I just thought, they appreciated the artwork,
right?
And they
as outsiders, they recognize the importance of it.
Exactly, and felt privileged to participate in that. So I thought that was a cool story.
Very cool. Okay, one more temple story. This is about the newest temple that will be built in the Las Vegas area. It is going to be built in the Lone Mountain community. And as you know, where there is a temple to be built, there is controversy. A protest to be had.
Well, it didn't used to be that way. It used to be when there was a temple to be built. Maybe I should say outside of, well, no, because we even have some controversy in Utah in the Heber City temple.
Yeah.
But it used to be, wow, this is going to increase our land values, be a beautiful thing. Now everybody complains about the lights and
there's lots of zoning issues and
steeple.
Yeah. So anyways, I do have to say, though, credit to these people in Las Vegas for creativity.
Yes.
There was a man named John Dorsey who he's the owner of Mr. Balloon, which I'm assuming is a balloon company. He sent up a 7-foot white helium balloon.
So when we say balloon company, we're not talking like balloon in a basket that goes up. We're talking big balloons.
No, yeah, like balloons, like helium balloons.
Yes.
So he sent up a 7-foot white helium balloon to the height of 216 feet, which is the current maximum height that is proposed by the church for the temple.
Yes.
To demonstrate. So he tied the rope down with some cinder blocks so it could just float in the air at 216 feet to demonstrate how intrusive the height of this temple will be on this neighborhood. So I just thought that was really clever and creative. I mean,
exactly.
I'll give credit where credit's due. Well, you can protest or you can bring a visual aid to your protest.
And he only got about 15 people from the community there to watch his protest, but he did call them media. And so he got a lot more exposure, I think, in the media than he did with the people who were there.
Right. So one neighbor said that our homes are asked to be 35 feet maximum, and the LDS community is asking for their temple to be 216 feet. So some of the residents are upset about this, which I get. Now, you also have to realize a temple is not a house. Like any building that is not zoned as a house is going to be higher than a house.
Probably.
Now, how much higher, that's up for debate.
Yeah.
Anyway, this says...
well, what's really interesting is the residents say, hey, you can't build this because there's an interlocal agreement that says you can't build it to that height. Well, that's kind of not really what the interlocal agreement says. The interlocal agreement says that if you want to do commercial or industrial, you can't build it to that height. But this is neither commercial nor industrial. The interlocal agreement is silent regarding the general plan or rezoning or civic uses or government facilities, schools, or religious facilities.
So it doesn't really give guidelines. It doesn't say yes. It doesn't say no. Yeah. So it's up for debate. And it sounds like it will be debated.
It sounds like we are going to see this in front of some city council and some planning and zoning.
So stay tuned. But I love the visual aid.
Okay. I love the visual aid too.
Okay.
All right. We are going to delve into the world of sports tonight. We have 2 sports stories. Now, sports generally aren't our strong suit, but we're going to do our best to cover these sports stories tonight.
We like the sports.
We like the sports.
We just don't know a lot about it.
No. We generally get our facts and everything completely inaccurate when it comes to sports. So for all you sports listeners out there, when we say inaccurate stuff and you want to yell at the device that you're listening to your podcast on, we get that. Okay, so first story tonight, BYU has a new basketball coach.
Okay.
So
you need to tell me about him because I did not get to read this one.
This is a very long article. It was an article talking all about BYU's new basketball coach. giving some history, where he came from, how he got there, and what type of an individual he is. It was in the Deseret News by our favorite reporter, Trent Troon. Well, actually, Hannah Syriac is our favorite reporter, but Trent, we'll give you number 2. Anyway, it is a rather long article, but it is super fascinating. So we need to go back to why BYU has to get a new basketball coach. So they had a basketball coach by the name of Mark Pope, I believe, if I recall correctly. So here is what happened. So this began April 1st. Nobody knew this was going on. So this began April 1st. On April 1st, a coach by the name of Andy Enfield drops a bomb in Los Angeles. And again, didn't really reverberate in Utah. What did we really care? He was the coach at USC. And so he drops a bomb that after 11 years, he's leaving USC and he is going to Southern Methodist University. So then USC has to find a new coach.
And the dominoes begin to fall.
So USC pilfers Arkansas's coach. So then Arkansas needs a new coach. So Arkansas goes to Kentucky and says, Kentucky, we're taking your coach. Then Kentucky's looking for a coach. And so what ends up happening is the athletic director for Kentucky, ding-a-ling-a-ling's the athletic director for BYU and says, well, I know you really like Mark Pope there, but he's a Kentucky alumni and we'd really like to pilfer him for our program. And so BYU lets them enter into talks with Mark Pope. Mark Pope, who was a very successful BYU basketball coach, ends up saying, ooh, I cannot say no to this opportunity to coach my alma mater.
Yeah.
So that left BYU with a surprise opening in their coaching. So then they are like, okay, who's on our short list?
And they have short lists.
And they do have short lists because in order to be a BYU coach, first of all, you have, I don't know if it's per se you have to be a member of the church, but you at least have to live to church standards. I would have a hard time believing they would hire anybody who is not a member of the church.
I think you probably have to be.
You probably have to be a member of the church. So you got to be a member of the church. You got to be a successful basketball coach. And, you know, I am assuming there's not a large pool of those floating around.
No, especially with college level
experience. Exactly. And college level experience. And I know of 2 in the NBA right now. I don't know if there are more, but the 2 that I am aware of are, of course, this Kevin Young, who coaches for the Phoenix Suns. And then there is another gentleman by the name of Alex Jensen. And he used to be a Jazz coach. He was let go by the Jazz about a year ago, and now he's coaching for the Mavericks. Also an active member of the church. Anyway. So,
I was kind of hoping they'd hire a woman. Remember we covered that story about Heather. Is it Heather Scott? She's like a woman and she coaches high school boys.
Oh, yes.
Not that they would hire a high school coach, but I was like, how cool would it be if they found an LDS woman to coach the boys? The men's basketball team
would probably be a unicorn, my friend.
Anyway, sorry.
I think that is a unicorn.
That was a tangent.
First of all, to find a woman coach and then find one that is an active member of the church with that skill level. Unicorn.
It would have been so cool because I mean that's starting to happen.
It is
starting to happen here and there, and I just think it's so fun.
Okay,
anyway, sorry. Go ahead. Okay. Tell us about the new guy. He's going to be amazing.
So the article starts out by talking about 2 pivotal things in his life. He was coaching in what's called the G League when he first started coaching. It's a sub league of the NBA. And he was coaching for the Iowa Energy. His wife is 5 months pregnant with their first child, and he gets released from the G League. And so dashing his coaching dreams.
Okay. And this was back in
back in 2011.
Oh, 2011. Okay.
2011. And so they kind of reassess, and then the baby is born, and then they head out to Bear, Delaware to coach another G League team. Like right after this baby is born, he's never lived essentially east. And so he picks this apartment. It's at the bad part of town. He arrives at the apartment before his wife does, and he can tell this is a stinky apartment in the bad part of town. He's like, oh my gosh, my wife is going to hate this. Uh-oh. And she arrives later on with their 3-month-old baby. Anyway, they just talk about how that experience just really kind of strengthened their marriage. Anyway, he worked his way through that G League. He then became an assistant for the Delaware 87s, which is a little bit higher than a G League.
Okay.
It's like a minor league team for the Philadelphia 76ers. And then he was able to make it to the Philadelphia 76ers.
Okay.
He coached for a number of years at the Philadelphia 76ers for Philadelphia, I think 8 years, including coaching in the NBA Finals and the All-Star Game. And then the lead coach got cut from the 76ers, and he was part of that got cut as well. That coach ends up going to the Phoenix Suns and invites him to go to the Phoenix Suns. He jumped on that because his family lives in Phoenix.
Oh,
and
nice.
So it was a great opportunity for them to move back west, to be near family, because coaching in the NBA is a serious gig. 200 nights a year, he is gone.
Wow.
He is on the road. And so his poor wife, her name is Melissa, is literally holding down the fort.
Wow. I didn't know that they traveled that many nights.
Yeah, they do. They travel.
Once you put a number on it, I'm like, wow.
Yeah, exactly. So they have loved living in Arizona near family. So every year around this time, when teams are looking for new coaches, he'd been on the short list for several years for other teams. This year he was on the short list for, let's see who he is on the short list for. He was on the short list for the Brooklyn Nets. And so in between all of these playoff games for the Suns, he's kind of interviewing with the Brooklyn Nets. And then this opportunity for BYU happens. He is in California, and his brother, who is kind of an agent, kind of sports guy for high school, calls him up and says, hey, guess what? Pope has just left BYU. And right after that, he gets a text from one of the athletic directors at BYU saying, you're on the short list. So, of course, the Nets get, aware of this. His wife knows. He doesn't have an opportunity face-to-face to really talk to her because he's on the road trying to coach the Suns. And she sends him this text. And he said she sent it to him while he was on an airplane. It was so sweet. It basically said, look, I really think we need to seriously consider BYU. I know it's giving up the glamour and the cool of the NBA, but think how good this would be for our family. If you go to the Brooklyn Nets, we're moving back east. We're moving away from family. You're still on the road. If we go to BYU, we are only an hour flight from your family in Phoenix. You will not be coaching on Sundays. Yes, it will be high profile, but she said, I'm ready to be the coach's wife. And he said she'd never said that before. She was always very supportive of him. And she said, this would be so good for our family. And so he really took that to heart and got interviewed by BYU and decided to give up the NBA. And what was really interesting is his interview process. So first of all, he talks to the athletic director. Then he talks to the university president, Shane Reese. Then he talks to Elder Clark Gilbert. Then he has to meet with 2 high-level senior leaders. We presume that's probably someone who is a member of the First Presidency or a Quorum of the 12, one of those 2.
Ooh, I'm dying to know which ones.
I know, and it doesn't say. And they say the reason that they do that is not so much for an interview process, but just to kind of mentor and say, this is what we expect of our coaches, and this is what we expect of somebody who represents BYU, and you need to understand, what our mission is, which I really liked. So then this is how they introduce him to BYU. So Ryan Smith, he is the owner of the Utah Jazz and a couple of other sports franchises. He flew on the team's, says Ryan Smith flew on the team's private jet to Los Angeles with Young's brother, Daniel. Okay. And he works for Ryan Smith's company, Qualtrics. And then after that, they flew to Phoenix and they picked up Young and his family. This is on Ryan Smith's private jet.
Okay.
And then they take the private jet to Provo and they get them all off the airplane in Provo. He has young kids. He's got a boy that's 10, a boy that's 8, and a little girl that's 6.
Oh.
So he's a young guy, young family, and they introduced him. Here's what I thought was so hilarious in looking at the photographs. If you look at all the NBA photographs they have of him, beard. Nicely trimmed beard, but dude has a beard. He shows up at the BYU Marriott Center for introduction. clean shaven.
Really? What did those general authorities say to him?
They probably said you have to follow the BYU honor code, and that means you're going to shave your beard if you want this gig.
That's true. I forgot they still have the beard thing going.
They still have the beard thing going. But I thought it was so funny because every picture he's sporting the beard until you see him introduced at the Marriott Center as the new coach, and he's clean shaven.
So does it make him look so young?
It does.
I think when you get used to a guy with a beard and then they shave it, they look like a baby. They look so young.
Well, and he's blonde to begin with, so he's kind of young. So
that's funny.
Congratulations to Coach Young.
Well, it sounds like he'll be a good fit for his family too.
Another fun fact: he and Steve Young, cousins.
Really?
Steve Young called him up when all of this was going on, and they started doing their genealogy. And Steve Young, of course, hails from Brigham Young. Kevin Young hails from Brigham's brother Lorenzo.
Okay, so distant cousins.
Distant cousins.
Not like I see you every year at the family reunion.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, well, that makes sense, yeah.
Anyway, that is our fun sports story. Okay. I know I took a long time on that, but it was just such an interesting article.
It'll be fun to watch what he does.
It will be. It will be. All right, and then our second sports story that I'm going to hit really quick. My favorite little QB, Zach Wilson. I'm still team Zach Wilson. I know he's had a really rough go in New York. And of course, when he went there, he was told, the New York media is going to eat you alive.
And they did.
They did not disappoint. Likewise, the Jets ate him alive as well. So Zachy got picked up by the Denver Broncos. And so he got traded from New York to Denver.
So will he be starting?
I don't know if he will be starting or not. Denver had Russell Wilson as a quarterback, and they picked him up from another team, and they let him go. But they've got Sean Payton, who is coaching the quarterbacks. And everybody said Sean Payton and Zach Wilson are going to be a really good fit. It's going to be a really good opportunity for Zach Wilson to really push the reset button. I mean, he has really been through the ringer in New York. The Denver fans are probably going to be a lot more forgiving than the New York fans. He's probably going to end up with a lot more support. So, Zach, pull it together. Show us what a good quarterback you can be. Take this opportunity. Don't blow it.
I hope he's successful.
I hope he's successful too.
Also, we got some funny memes out of it.
I know. I like the kid. I really want him to succeed.
But you saw the meme, right? That was like, people of Denver, hide your mothers.
No, I did not see that meme.
Sorry. I know it's meme, but it's also funny.
Well,
it's just a joke.
I know.
Just a joke.
It'll be interesting, too, to see if his girlfriend follows him because she's New York City based.
Oh.
She's an influencer on Instagram.
Is this the same girlfriend he's had the whole time?
No,
he got a new girlfriend.
So, he and that girlfriend broke up, and she's the one that spread the rumor that they broke up.
That's right. She spread the rumor about dating the mom's friend.
He was dating
or
the mom's
hooking
friend.
up with the mom's
or hooking
friend.
up with the mom's
I forgot
friend.
how that drama
exactly.
Went. Oh my!
So then he got a new girlfriend who's New York City based. So I don't know if she'll follow. We'll have to see.
I don't know. All right. Well, we wish him luck.
Yes, we do.
Okay. Next article is, for the first time in 15 years, a Utah LDS singer has made it to the American Idol top 10.
Yes.
15 years? It's been that long.
I know.
Because I feel like we always have someone who's a member of the church on there.
Exactly.
Like almost every year we're talking about it, but I guess they just haven't made it this far in a long time. So her name is Cale Brianne Richens. She's from Utah. She's from Hennifer.
I've never even heard of that.
I don't know where that is. She's 20 years old.
They call it a small town. Must really be a small town.
Yes. So we haven't had anyone in that top 10 for a while. Last time was Megan Joy, a singer from Sandy.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we had David Archuleta, and then we had Carmen Rasmussen many years ago.
Yes.
But this girl, Cale Brianne, says, I thought this was interesting. She has suffered for a long time from performance anxiety.
Yeah.
She said, like the kind that makes your body go numb and your vocal cords tighten and your mouth go dry.
Now, she had to talk to Donny Osmond. He had that.
Oh, he did?
He did. He had terrible anxiety when he was doing Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat.
You never would have known.
He had to work through that.
And same thing. I'm like, how the heck are you getting on American Idol if you have this? But she said last summer while she was doing door-to-door sales in Florida, she had a conversation with a stranger that kind of like inspired her to just go for it and let loose. He said, God wouldn't have given you that gift of singing if there weren't ways to work through it. So she kind of, I guess, got determined, like, I've got to work through this. And so apparently she's working through it because she's made it into the top 10.
Well, and that is awesome for her.
Yeah.
So good luck.
we wish her luck too.
Okay.
Okay, what do we have now? We've got
the YSA stuff.
Oh, YSA stuff. Okay, we talked big about the big YSA conference that happened in Utah
last year.
Was that in the fall?
No, I think it was in the summer last year.
Oh, okay. Where
Kurt went to it. I don't know how he scored an invite, but he went to it.
Was that long ago?
Yes.
It feels like we barely talked about that.
I know.
Anyway, they had big concerts. They had a giant service project, meals.
Well, and who knows? Maybe this girl, the 20-year-old, will get invited to this, depending on how she does. Because last year they had one of their concert performers was Jordan Sparks, and she was an American Idol person, and I think there was another one that was an American Idol person.
Oh yeah, there was another guy on there.
Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
Yes. So anyway, this article is about they are now mimicking these conferences in other places throughout the world and the nation.
Well, and they've had one like it in Norway for a number of years.
Right.
So it might be that we copied Norway, but now we're expanding it.
Right. We're expanding it. So most of these conferences will have keynote speakers, a major concert, dances, and other entertainment, and devotionals. So that's kind of the model for these. They're for ages 29 through 50.
Oh, no, that's just the mid-single one that's in DC that's 29 through 50.
That's the DC one.
DC is not doing a YSA one. They're doing a mid-single
they're doing a mid-single one. Oh, I thought that seemed like a high age range.
The others are all 18 through 30.
Because they have older people in DC.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so then this article breaks it down kind of by city. The cities so far that have announced that they're doing them over the summer, like Kansas City, Missouri, Denver, Colorado, Boise, Idaho. I've seen that advertised here in our program.
And see, I have not seen that at all. You told me that you had seen it advertised. This was news to me when I read the article. I was like, oh, we're doing one of these in Boise?
Yeah, they're pushing it hard. So most of these have a fee. Most of them are about like $50 to attend. And they take place over like 2 or 3 days and kind of the same. They have a service project. They have different activities. There's going to be one in Nauvoo, Illinois, and they'll do some church history stuff.
Well, and the Kansas City one does some church history stuff too. The Kansas City does.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to Adam-on-Diamond, Independent Visitor Center, Liberty Jail.
And then I thought this was funny about the Kansas City one. They're having a religious freedom breakout session.
Okay.
They're very passionate about that, I guess.
Either that or it's an issue there. I'm not really sure.
I don't know. That was like unique to Kansas City. None of the other ones mentioned that.
No.
And then they're doing some in the Philippines and in Nigeria.
Yeah.
And we don't have as much information on what will take place in the ones that are out of the country.
That are international. They also have one in Romania too.
Yeah. So anyway, this is starting to be a thing that they're going to try to implement all over the world.
Which I think is great. I mean, Kurt had really good things to say about the one last year that he attended. And my understanding, the one in Utah is, everything was sold out.
Yeah.
They had great attendance. They had great activities. It was really a wonderful thing.
It kind of sounds like EFY or what is now FSY, but for like 20 something.
Exactly.
Which would be super fun.
Yeah.
And go home and sleep in your own bed at night.
Exactly. And, maybe you meet some people, make some friends, make some connections. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, now we've just got a few miscellaneous stories. This first one comes to us out of Pocatello, Idaho, in the Idaho State Journal. There is a woman there. Her name is Manti Jane Williams, and she is a well-known local artist. And she has illustrated Walking with the Women of the Book of Mormon, the New Testament and Old Testament book stories. And she started out like doing photography. She had a camera and she would take pictures of the temples. And you may have seen those pictures of the temples where they like antiqued them. Mm-hmm. Those aren't hers, but she has done something very similar to that. And then she got asked to illustrate these books. And the article just talks about how she has worked to balance her creative side with, she has very small children. Right. And you have creative things that you do. And that sometimes is a juggling act to figure out how to do the creative thing, which fulfills you. And also Be Present for Your Children.
Small children, yes. I hadn't heard of those books. Had you?
I had not heard of those books
but
either.
When I clicked on the article, it showed one of her temple pictures. And I was like, oh, I've definitely seen this temple picture before.
So if you put in her name, I'm sure a bunch of those temple pictures will pull up.
Yeah. Okay. We have, where are we at here?
Oh, I forgot to give you this. We're on Earth Day.
Oh, we're on Earth Day. All right. The Church News put out an article of just kind of, I think we've talked about this before, but they put it out on Earth Day to remind us of all the things the church is doing to try to sustain the earth. And the earth is beautiful and we care for the earth. So they just had some lists of things they're doing, and they're really hitting hard on their Utah buildings because it's such a big deal in Utah with preserving the water and changing the landscaping. And then they're starting to put more like solar panels on different buildings.
Yeah. In fact, the article shows a building that is, I want to say it's somewhere over in Europe, and the roof is all solar panels. It's very cool.
Really cool. So, and then they just gave a list of lots of things they're trying to do, donating trees to different places. Of course, the DI.
Exactly.
Reusing and recycling and, things they're trying to do.
Well, the other thing I thought was interesting is they have transitioned to 100% recycled plastic cups for use in the sacraments.
Oh, yeah. I thought that was interesting, too. I would never have noticed.
I did not know. But apparently we're all drinking from recycled plastic. We have the good
plastic cups, not the little flimsy paper ones that fall apart.
Same with us. We got the plastic. I can't remember the last time I even used the paper ones. I wonder if the paper ones are even still available.
I don't know. I don't like those paper ones.
Yeah, they fall apart.
But they probably are better for the environment.
Probably.
So,
all right. So next story, we had a death this week.
We did. We just wanted to briefly mention this. A church historian, very well known, Melissa Inouye, from Utah.
44 years old.
44 years old, died of cancer. She's very well respected church historian, and she has a lot of like world history, world religion studies. Like she just is very knowledgeable and just really great quotes, and she's very beloved in Utah, especially where people are very familiar with her. So she passed away this week. There's a lot of really great articles about her if you want to read more. I mean, I think every Utah, the Tribune had an article, the Deseret News had an article, the Church News, BYU, Maxwell Institute, they all had kind of articles about her life and some of her contributions. So
I had never heard of her, sadly. I just hadn't. I guess that's not my jam that I really read about that. But there was a really interesting article in the Tribune, and I didn't make it through the article. She did an interview with somebody from the Tribune. Just
right before she died.
Right before she died.
Yeah.
And they were asking her about, what things would you like to see changed? And so she was giving a laundry list of church things she would, like to see changed in an ideal world. And she said, please don't publish this till after I die.
I thought that was interesting too.
I want to go back and read the article because I just barely got into it.
She had some great ideas. I read the article.
So what were some of her ideas?
Just some ideas for more equality between men and women in the church, some ways that could happen.
Oh, okay.
And some things like that.
Okay. Well, I'll have to go back and read it. I got interrupted by, my grandson was over at my house today, so that's probably how I got interrupted.
It was good.
Okay, the last article that we have before we move on to our infamous Mormons behaving badly is, if you have not opened your LDS tools lately, you should, because they have launched a whole new app, and LDS tools looks completely different.
Because I had to look something up this week, and I was like, "What's going on? Everything is moved, and it looks different."
Exactly. In fact, I'll hold it up on the screen.
That's always my first reaction when some app updates.
Rather than like in the past when I would open it up, if I was on the directory, it'd be on the directory, and then I would go down to the bottom and move where I wanted to. You open it up now, and it has a whole screen of little dots like directory, organizations, calendars, reports. And so a lot more little things to
help with callings.
Which
I think is like, just looking at it, I don't have a calling right now where I'm needing to file reports or anything, but just from looking at it, I'm like, this is going to be actually very helpful.
Yeah. Well, and apparently, and I don't know if you could do this on the old app or not because I never did it, but you can submit names through the app to the Temple Prayer Roll. I do know on the old app, it would remind you when your temple recommend expired. Temple ordinance schedules are available for the temple that you live in. And anyway, it's just a whole new look to it.
Right.
I have not had a bunch of time yet to really.
This is what
mess
I
around
think
with
is
it.
going to be super helpful. It says local leaders can view reports,
Yes,
and move membership records and stuff like that.
To be able to move it on the app and not have to get on the computer.
I think that's going to be really handy because you have to do like ministering reports,
Yes.
right? You've always had to do that on the computer. At least last time I was in, we had to do it on the computer.
Could
you get it on your app?
If I interview someone for a ministering interview, I could get on the app and click the dot that I've been interviewed.
Oh, I didn't know it was on. Maybe it was. It's been a while since I've been in. So
yeah. And I haven't gone into those reports to see if they look different now. Yeah. But no, whenever I do ministering interviews, I can go click the dot
been on there.
that they've been interviewed.
Well, that is much easier.
Yes. So. All right. Shall we move on to Mormons behaving badly?
Yes. Oh, this one is a doozy this
one
week.
Is a doozy, our first one. So
it's like just a wild, it's a
wild story.
It's one of those stories where you're like, what?
So we're going to talk about this one. And then I'm going to give an Ammon Bundy update, and I will give a Chad Daybell trial update.
Oh.
Okay. Now, this first one happened in the St. George area. Now, I do not know if the perpetrator of this is a member of the church. I am going to presume from the behavior that this person probably is a member of the church, given A, the behavior, and B, she lives in St. George, where there is a very high LDS population. But I could find nothing to confirm or deny her church membership. We do have some listeners who live in St. George, so maybe they might have more intel than me. Okay, in fact, let me look up her name, because the article that I have right now did not have her name in it. I pulled the Salt Lake Tribune article. So her name is Ida Ann Lorenzo. Okay, so
and she is 48 years old.
She is 48 years old. Last Saturday night,
which means she should know better.
She should know better. She is at a Japanese steakhouse down in the St. George area. Now, from what I understand, her child was going to prom, and she was there with her child, kind of escorting her child for prom. I
don't know. Who knows?
Anyway, so they're sitting there waiting to get into the Japanese steakhouse, and there are some young women over off to the side, and she begins to take issue with the skirt length of one of the girls over there. So she goes over to this girl and she pulls her skirt down and basically says, "This is too high. You need to cover yourself up," etc., etc., etc. So that act in and of itself was not taped. But then, of course, the girl and her friends got into it with this woman, and one of the friends happened to click on the camera and start videoing
their heated
conversation. And the 48-year-old woman, Ms. Lorenzo, says, "I happen to work for the state, and if I have to watch your blank cheeks hanging out again, I will call CPS." And then the lady says, or one of the friends says, "She's 18. Why are you going to call CPS? She's 19 years old. You don't get to touch her." Anyway, so they have this whole heated conversation. Long story short, the video gets placed on the infamous TikTok, and it goes viral on TikTok, and she becomes a Utah Karen.
Uh-oh.
Well, she is not very happy with her video going viral on TikTok, so she calls the police to complain about her video being viral on TikTok. Hence, an investigation ensues, and she ends up with a misdemeanor charge for sexual battery. She is arrested, and she has to post a $1,000 bond.
Yes.
Now, what is very interesting is she does apparently work for a state agency.
Oh, she does?
She does. So
the article I read said they could not.
Well, and I should say it is suspected that she works for a state agency. I believe she said she worked for the Attorney General's office in Utah. So my first question was, is this woman a lawyer? Are you freaking kidding me? She could lose her law license for this. So I looked on the State Bar's website for Utah. She is not a lawyer. So if she does work for the Attorney General's office, it is
like administrator.
It is an administrator. Okay. So the Salt Lake Tribune was able to find an email find a state employee directory that lists an email and phone number for a person with the same name that indicates that she does work for the Attorney General's office. They contacted the Attorney General's office, who said, "We are aware of the situation and we are following the Attorney General office policies and procedures."
Oh, yikes.
So, yeah.
So her job could be in jeopardy too.
Her job could very well be in jeopardy. Anyway, so that is my Mormon behaving badly. All right, let's do a quick Ammon Bundy update. You know how I have said all along I suspected when he fled Idaho that he went to Utah?
Yes.
Probably southern Utah.
He's been MIA for a couple months.
He's been MIA for a couple of months. Well, there is an online website called Bellingcat.
Okay.
Don't even ask me what that stands for. I don't know. But they did a deep dive and a geolocating on Ammon Bundy. So he has been posting videos. And so they took clues from the videos. One video was inside his house and there was a school calendar that was on the refrigerator. They were able to zoom in on that school calendar and find out that that was a school in Iron County, which is right adjacent to Washington County, which of course is southern Utah.
What is this website? Can I get a job working for them? This sounds like exciting
I know. And then he took some videos outside. And so they took the mountains back behind him and they were over to overlay those with some other mountains, again, to determine that, yes, he was in southern Utah.
Okay.
And so, yes, that is.
So where? Like St. George?
Well,
probably some small town.
He is in the Iron County / Washington County area, which is southern Utah. I don't believe that's where his dad lives. I think his dad lives in Nevada, because I've always suspected that he went to Cliven's Ranch and was hanging out at Cliven's Ranch. I think his dad lives in Nevada. So I don't know if he's got some other family that lives down there, or if he's in his own place. And he's basically like, yeah, Idaho, come get me. If you want me, track me down. And well, we haven't really done that. I don't know where that's going to go. But sure enough, he has been geolocated to the southern Utah area.
Well, this will be fun. I mean, he'll probably lay low for a while, but he's not able to lay low for too long.
Well, he keeps posting videos.
So, like, when's he going to start, like, causing a stir down in Utah?
I don't know.
It'll be fun to watch when it's not our state.
Exactly. Exactly. All right. And then let's do a quick Chad Daybell update. As I'm sure many of our listeners are aware, Chad Daybell is currently on trial here in Ada County, Boise, Idaho, for the murder of his wife, Tammy, as well as JJ and Tylee Vallow. So, interesting. Couple of different things that have, a lot of the testimony and evidence that has come out is repetitive of what we saw in Lori's trial, but there have been a few new things, and this is John Pryor's take. This is his defense, at least as it was laid out in opening statements. First of all, Tammy was sick and she used a lot of natural remedies. So she died of natural causes. That's argument number one. Is she'd been sick and suffering from ailments for a while. Never went to the doctor because she was all about, the oils, the homeopathic stuff.
Okay.
Second thing, he had no idea the kids were in his backyard. That was all on Lori and Alex. Yeah, and he was completely unaware of that. So he didn't do any of these. Third thing John Pryor said in his opening statement, 3 or 4 of the Daybell children are going to testify on behalf of their father.
Oh, wow.
We have only heard from them once, and that was an interview that there's 5 kids. 4 of the 5 kids did for CBS News. We have not heard anything else from them. So right now the prosecution is still presenting their case. So we're getting a few more details than what we had in Lori's case, because now we're getting it from Chad's perspective. But I think that it will get really interesting when the defense starts to present their case and we get to hear all sorts of new things that we have not heard before.
Yeah, that will be interesting.
So, all right. Shall we move on to some favorite things?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a couple of things to try tonight. Food items
Tiffany
that I
brought things for me to try, and they don't look gross, so I'm happy about it.
Okay, so you describe this one while I open up the next one.
She brought a chocolate frosted donut Kit Kat. I've never seen these. Where'd you find this?
I found it at Walmart. And see, I love a chocolate frosted donut, so I'm super curious to see how this tastes.
So it's like, it looks like it has maybe a maple glaze with like chocolate on top. Okay. I bet there's a maple flavor in here.
Oh, it's a little melty. Sorry. No maple, but that is a delicious Kit Kat.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
Does it taste a little donut-y? A little donut-y.
It kind of tastes like glaze and chocolate together.
Yeah.
I would totally eat that.
It was good.
Okay. The next thing I brought is a limited edition key lime cupcake. It's a spring hostess cupcake that I found in the grocery store.
Now this I'm excited to try.
So,
because I love lime.
Okay, so try this. I actually found it about 6 weeks ago, so they're a little outdated, but it's hostess. I mean,
we know there's enough preservatives in here.
Exactly. Okay, so what are you thinking of the key lime?
I think it's good, but I'm getting a bit of an aftertaste. What do you think?
Definitely an aftertaste, and it doesn't have as much flavor as I really thought it would. I'm kind of disappointed. I don't know if I would necessarily do that again.
I don't know. Maybe it's because it's expired. Maybe not. Maybe it's just the way it is.
Yeah. I mean, they are about 3 weeks expired. I bought them in March going, we're going to use these. And then I hid them away so nobody in my house would eat them. And then I ran across them the other day. I was like, I forgot to use those. So there's our recommendation on food things. But do you have a favorite thing you want to discuss that is an item or a show?
I do have a favorite thing, and it's actually another food thing.
Okay.
People have probably seen it all over because it's finally hitting the stores. It is the coconut cream Dr. Pepper or Dr. Pepper Zero, which is my choice.
Okay.
I'm a Dr. Pepper connoisseur.
You are a Dr. Pepper connoisseur.
I try all the variations and flavors that come out. The coconut cream is good.
Oh.
Now, I like to make my Dr. Pepper Zeros dirty anyways. I add like coconut creamer to them a lot. This is kind of a similar flavor, but without having to add anything. It was good.
So you would give like a 10 out of 10 to this?
I'd give a 9 out of 10.
So if you're in the grocery store and you're buying regular Dr. Pepper Zero and this in the Zero.
Yes. Actually, if I had a choice between this and regular and I didn't have anything to add in, I would buy that. I would choose coconut.
Okay.
I like it.
Okay. Well, my favorite thing, at least I think it's going to be my favorite thing, there is a new movie that is out by T.C. Christensen. And you may remember T.C. Christensen. He did Ephraim's Rescue. He did 17 Miracles. He did The Fighting Preacher, Cocaville Miracle. He is an LDS filmmaker, and he does a lot of films. He has a new movie out. It's called Escape from Germany. And it is set in World War II. And it is about LDS missionaries who had to get out of Germany at the beginning of the war. And it is based on a true story. And I have tickets to see it tomorrow night.
Oh, it's like in theaters?
It is in theaters.
And it's here in Idaho?
It's here in Idaho.
Oh.
They released it in Utah 2 weeks ago. It just barely made it to Idaho. Darren and I have tickets tomorrow night for date night. We're going to go see it. I have not met a T.C. Christensen film that I do not like. I like them all. He did a podcast with LDS Living. The podcast is called All In, where he talked about the making of this film. And I listened to that podcast and really enjoyed that particular podcast. So I'm going to go see the movie tomorrow night.
Oh.
And next time we record, I'll return and report.
I do want the full report on that.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that about wraps it up for us tonight, TWIM Nation. Thank you so much for listening to us. And we really do want to thank our sponsor, Postum, tonight. And Postum, you have a new fan in TWIM sister Ariane. Who knew?
I'm speechless. I'm shook, but it was delicious.
It is delicious. I really like the fact that it has that chocolate flavor, but not all the sugar. So anyway, we'd really like to thank our sponsor, Postum, for sponsoring This Week in Mormons. And so go find some Postum on your grocery shelf, or you can get online and order it at postum.com. They've also got some recipes and some other fun things on their site. So anybody who wants to reach out to us, you can contact us at contact@thisweekinmormons.com. You can find us on Facebook, on Instagram. I don't know if anybody's really doing much with our Twitter account these days. And of course, if you would like to be a Patreon supporter, we do have extra content for our Patreon supporters. And in fact, Ariane's going to stick around and we're going to talk conference music in our extra Patreon content.
Yes, we are.
So for $3 a month or any amount that you want to pledge, you can become a Patreon supporter and get access to that extra content. So thank you very much.
Thanks for listening.